Brannon Howe.
And good evening. Welcome on this March 26, 2025. Tonight I'm going to be joined by Leo Holman and David Pine. The controversy over SignalGate continues. But now it really shouldn't be so much over the so-called classified information that got released, because people can argue about that. Was it classified? Was it not classified, etc. The issue is Mike Waltz. Should Mike Waltz have ever been appointed? My guest tonight, first up, we're saying no before President Trump was sworn in. Well, what about the connection between Mr. Waltz and his deputy, Mr. Wong, and Mr. Wong's family members? Well, there's a lot of reports swirling out there tonight. Some of them I haven't had a chance to verify myself, but we'll tell you what's being reported, and we'll tread carefully. But it seems to be pretty accurate from what I'm reading. So with that, we're going to deal with, do we have a deep state infiltration of the Trump administration like we had with, I believe, people like, Mike Pence? Let's get to that tonight. And then Patrick Wood. I want to talk to Patrick Wood tonight about a brand new article he has at technocracy.news. And that new article is right here. It is titled, Technocrats Spark Global War Over Crypto Supremacy. Did you know there's been an executive order signed? It was just yesterday. The executive order about accepting payments now digitally. Apparently, I guess everybody that's getting Social Security and whatnot is going to have to, they're going to have to get a bank account if they don't have one. You're not going to get a check in the mail. Apparently, I guess it have to be a direct deposit, a digital direct deposit. Now, I can make the case why that could cut down a lot of fraud, but others are saying this is all laying the foundation for a technocrat's dream of, well, really having supremacy through crypto. This is technocracy, which is really using technology to control us. We'll see what Patrick Wood has to say about that tonight. Aaron Lavarco, our reporter from Israel, who's in the States, is going to talk to us about some of the things going on in Israel, including there are reports, even by the Israeli government. They're verifying reports that there are people in the Gaza that are now openly calling for Hamas to get out of Gaza. They've had enough of Hamas. Let's talk and check in with Aaron. And then, have you seen the article today? A lot of people got excited about this article. Secret CIA files claim Ark of the Covenant has been found. That's something we've talked about for a lot of years, the Ark of the Covenant. Well, read the article, you find out, don't get excited. Apparently the CIA back in the 70s was fooling around with a psychic. But anyway, I want to ask Bob Cornuke, who's been looking for the Ark of the Covenant for many, many, many years, Noah's Ark, because Daily Mail had an article not too long ago on Noah's Ark supposedly being found. Really? Wrongo on both accounts. Bob Cornuke will join us tonight on that. Now, before we get to it, big interview with Leo and David Pine. We're going to go and we're going to do that interview, and we're not going to interrupt him with commercial breaks. And this is the format we've chosen for now. I say for now because it may change. We may be forced to have to start to go onto a clock where, hey, at 14 after, 29 after, 44 after, I'm going to breaks because we've got to raise revenue. And if what I saw come in with donations 2 days ago is any indication, we're probably not going to be able to keep this format. I appreciate all of you who are being generous and supporting us, but there's just not enough people supporting us financially, frankly, for what we're spending, what we got to bring in. So we're trying our best, okay? There are two ways you can support us. One is through our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. I appreciate all of you that are supporting us. But for as many people that are watching us, and the audience is quite large, there are still so many people that watch regularly and they don't support us through our foundation. Please consider doing that because I really want to keep this format. But we may have to go to having commercial breaks to supplement our income. We've got a lot of ways we have to work to bring in that 40 plus grand a month that it costs to keep this network going. And that does not include my receiving a check, which I do. I have to make a living like everybody else. That 40 grand plus a month is just my hard cost for operating the network. Please consider worldviewfoundation.com. Another way is worldviewtube.com/support. worldviewtube.com/support. You'll find all of our different sponsors there, folks. So it's a great way for you to use products you need. Ivermectin, amoxicillin, you have your emergency kit on hand. The Swish, that's got glutathione in it. You got our Vault, that's got 35 years of my work and research and radio shows and TV shows in it. Coffee that's not been sprayed, the organic coffee at worldviewcoffee.shop. A water filter that filters out lead, fluoride, all kinds of other toxins and bacteria. And pharmaceuticals, worldviewwater.net. Gold, worldviewgold.net to diversify your portfolio. Worldview Talk to get a satellite phone, a cell phone with a company that doesn't track you. Of course, the Gatatana. All of it's there. Please support us these ways, all these ways. It takes all of them to, bring in the funds we need. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Joining me now is Leo Holman and David Pine. David has to join us by phone tonight. The big story, of course, today going everywhere is SignalGate, and it's getting stranger and stranger as we find out more, at least if we believe the reports put out there about National Security Advisor Mike Waltz's assistant, his deputy, Mr. Wong, and his family ties. Very troubling. Paul Sperry, who wrote the book with my friend Dave Gobbets on Islam, Muslim Mafia. Paul Sperry is talking about this quite a bit today. So is someone I've interviewed many times, Laura Loomer. Let's catch up on what these guys think, because David Pine and Leo Holman were not shy in saying from the beginning they were not in favor of Mike Waltz, this former congressman / neocon, getting on the National Security Council. Gentlemen, welcome to the broadcast again tonight.
Hey, Brad, great to be with you.
Great to have you guys with us. Okay, Paul Sperry is putting out tonight that just spoke with a full bird Army colonel who thrice voted for Trump. Quote, "I've spent most of my career handling classified information, so I'm not an apologist." That is clearly classified. Time over target is exposure time. Double standard with Hillary, but not this. But with Hillary, but this is a firing offense. End quote. David, was this classified information that was released or not?
I believe it likely was classified information. I mean, I've been listening to the Senate hearings yesterday and the House Intel hearings today, in which the CIA director, John Ratcliffe, and Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, have both said that this was not classified information. I think there's a legitimate, argument that it might not be, but typically this would be classified information under any other circumstances. And I absolutely agree with the full bird colonel that Paul Sperry has quoted that this should be a firing offense because Mike Waltz says, he claims he took ownership of it and he took full responsibility, but he's clearly lied about not knowing Goldberg, who is, works for a Kamala Harris oligarch and, is very hateful towards Donald Trump. And, Waltz he's kind of a deep state type of guy. That's why I think Leo and I were taking the lead in opposing him to the hilt from the start.
Okay, so he's claiming he doesn't know this guy. Waltz is claiming, I don't know Goldberg, but yet there has now been released today on social media a picture of Waltz standing next to Goldberg at an event. What's your take on all this, Leo?
Yeah, I am with David on this one. I think he's lying. I think if we get an honest investigation from Elon Musk, which is debatable whether or not we will, I think we'll find out good and well that Mr. Waltz had a relationship with Mr. Goldberg. And, I agree also that this is something that is so egregious. I mean, when you get right down to it, when we're trying to, anyone can debate whether or not this is classified or not classified. But in the end game scenario, classified is what the president says is classified. So if Trump chooses to go to bat and defend Waltz to the hilt, he will claim that this was not classified information. But there you have it from a colonel, what traditionally is classified information, time over target. And that involved this particular chat session. They were talking about who and where was being bombed and when it was going to happen. So typically this would be considered classified, but you could make the argument, as David said, that it's not. And the best argument for that is the president says it's not.
All right, let's go to Mr. Walz, Mike Walz, who is he? Then let's go to Mr. Wong, I guess his deputy, and Mr. Wong's family, wife, father-in-law, etc., what's being at least reported out there. First of all, Paul Sperry is putting out new FEC records, Federal Election Commission records, FEC, for ex-Cheney aide. So Mike Walz used to be a aide for Cheney. Now Trump's national security advisor, who, quote, accidentally, end quote, leaked to The Atlantic, shows he's contributed $8,150 to Never Trumpers and $0 to Trump. He put out $5,000 to Mitt Romney, John McCain, $450, Jeb Bush, $2,700, Donald Trump, $0. What do we know about Mike Walz? I'll start with you, David, and then Leo. Why were you opposed to Mike Walz? What did you know about him as a neocon?
So Mike Waltz and Marco Rubio were part of the anti-Russia chorus that was, marching in lockstep with the Biden regime in saying that the U.S. had to send massive arms shipments to Ukraine, that this was a fight for democracy against autocracy. I mean, all of that was complete nonsense. We knew from the start that it was Biden that provoked Russia to invade Ukraine. It would have never happened under Donald Trump because, the only thing that Putin asked for to guarantee he wouldn't invade was a written guarantee that Ukraine would never join NATO. But so Waltz, they've been wanting to fight the war to the hilt. They've criticized Biden for not giving enough, not unilaterally disarming the U.S. military enough to give all our advanced weapons systems to Ukraine in a senseless and pointless and unnecessary war, an unwinnable war against the Russian Federation, which is the mightiest nuclear superpower on the planet. And so they are not natural allies and never have been with President Trump on this issue. And they've of course, been willing to, tweak their positions, but I don't think they've really fully abandoned their position. I think that when it comes right down to it, and Trump is saying, what should we do? Russia's saying they won't end the war unless we accept 90% of their terms. I think they'll say, tell them to pound sand. And then the war continues and the killing continues, and then Russia stays allied to China. And President Trump's signature foreign policy initiative of splitting the Russia-China alliance is defeated.
Leo, what were your objections to Waltz?
Well, he voted, as David said, in lockstep with the deep state. There was not a single Ukraine aid package that Mike Walz was not eager to approve and vote for. And so that was all I needed to know that he was the wrong guy for President Trump if President Trump was serious about backing away from the corrupt state of Ukraine and its corrupt dictator Zelensky. Over $300 billion of American taxpayer dollars has been wasted on that phony, fraudulent democracy that they call a democracy and is really a dictatorship. Mike Walz has been in favor of everything that has gone on there. He was in Congress when all of this was approved, including the biolabs and everything. He would have been aware of all of it, and he never once voted against any of it, nor did he make any public pronouncements about it. He was against it. He was always in favor of backing Ukraine as a proxy for NATO to poke Russia in the eye. And in many ways, he's a stooge of the UK, which we know the UK is at the heart of this anti-Russia sentiment, this anti-Russia obsession if you will, Starmer in the UK, along with Macron in France, are really leading the charge here, trying to deal a strategic blow to Russia. This is in many ways, Brandon, a replay of the 1850s when we had the UK, Britain, and France fighting on the side of the Muslim Ottoman Empire against Russia. Why? Because they wanted to prevent Russia from having a warm water port on the Crimean Peninsula, and they were willing to go to war, even side with the Muslims, in order to stop that from happening. They are still whining and complaining about Russia's presence in the Crimea. They want to kick Russia out, and they want to steal its resources. That's what this war is all about, and that's why they're using Ukraine as their proxy.
Let's go to another post by Paul Sperry. Though Waltz insists, quote, I wasn't talking to Goldberg, end quote, a U.S. intel official told me Waltz was a source for Goldberg while on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Quote, there's no need for an investigation to figure out how he was added to the chat. Goldberg was in his address book because he's been talking to him, end quote. What do you make of this, David?
I think that's absolutely true. That's in line with everything that I've been assuming is that Mike Waltz, while serving on the House Intelligence Committee, was a leaker and kind of collaborated with the neoliberals at the Atlantic and other major news journals because they were singing from the same tune with regards to Biden's war in Ukraine and his proxy war against Russia. And obviously, that was in opposition to all the America First conservatives from President Trump on down in Congress. And, I just really think that, not only is it egregious that he may have shared classified military operations or war plans with this individual that he's linked to, but that he's lied about it. I mean, he's been completely disgraceful and dishonorable. It'd be one thing if he had fessed up to it and said, yeah, this is the guy I had contact with years ago. I meant to clean my phone, and I accidentally pressed the wrong guy, and it's no classified information, but he has not been honest. He's been dishonest from the start.
Now let's go to another Paul Sperry quote on X. Kamala Harris. Kamala's best friend forever, or BFF, and billionaire Democrat backer Lauren Powell Jobs, who pumped millions into her 2024 campaign, owns The Atlantic magazine and employs Jeffrey Goldberg. So if Goldberg is friends with Waltz and Goldberg is in the control and employment of Lauren Powell Jobs, who's BFF with Kamala Harris, I'm starting to wonder if this is a setup, Leo.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly looks bad for Mike Waltz. I certainly hope that President Trump will come to his senses. And as this story continues to unfold, at first it did seem like maybe there was, less to the story than was being made of by The Atlantic. But when you look at the screenshots and all that was revealed on that chat session, I mean, and now the evidence, the hard evidence that Waltz is not being on the up and up. He's not being honest about his relationship with Goldberg and that magazine, The Atlantic. I think he needs to go. I really do. I mean, and David's point about the leaker, him playing the role of the leaker is very prescient. In many ways, Mike Waltz is the reincarnation of Mike Pence. Mike Pence was, as you recall, a deep state plant in the first Trump administration. He is suspected and been accused of leaking many of the stories that got the Trump administration embroiled in, horrific scandals that played out in the media there was nothing really to them, but they sounded horrible in the mainstream media the way they were spun. That could not have been done were it not from the information provided by Mike Pence.
Wow.
And in many ways, Waltz is the reincarnation. Waltz is the Pence of Trump 2.0.
And let's just, for people, that last name Jobs, Lauren Powell Jobs, that is Steve Jobs' widow. And when you go and look her up online, you find out, obviously, she's a major donor to the Democrat Party, but she apparently also works with a group known as, where is it? She's a widow of Steve Jobs, managed the Steve Jobs Trust, but she has another organization I saw in her bio that she works with, a really, really progressive group. So I'm going to find it here. I know she works with a really progressive group that basically is going to be opposed to everything Donald Trump is doing. Let's see what it is. Does anyone know the group she's got? She's got some kind of, I'm going to find it. You guys talk. I'll find what group she's a part of, because I know I just saw it in my research here. But yeah, I mean, this is Steve Jobs' widow, David.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it's a very incestuous group. The neo-libs, the neocons, the John McCains, the Mike Pences, the George Bushes of the world. They all collude together, and they've colluded for a uniparty, deep state foreign policy that's put America last, and it's got us in endless forever wars that put us on the very edge of nuclear war with the Russian Federation, as reported by Biden's own Undersecretary of Defense, Colin Kahl, who said we can't, the CIA was assessing that we were at a 50% risk of Russian nuclear escalation in Ukraine in September of 2022. And what did Biden do about it? He doubled down, and so did every other neocon, many of which had every reason to know that we were on the edge of nuclear war, including Mike Waltz.
All right, so I found it. It's the Emerson Collective. The Emerson Collective, which funds all kinds of far left, progressive leftist things. So this is who Goldberg works for, who is now, we're finding pictures of Mike Waltz with him, Goldberg, back in 2021, I believe it was, who he says he doesn't know, has never met. Now, let's move on to Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer has been putting stuff all over X today. I cannot validate what she's putting out yet. I haven't had the chance. It's breaking so fast. You guys can tell me if you've had a chance to validate any of this. Laura Loomer is saying that the Deputy National Security Advisor, Alex Wong's father, so this would be the National Deputy Advisor to Mike Waltz, that his deputy, Alex Wong's father-in-law, had direct ties to the CCP. Can anyone verify this? Does anyone know? She claims she has the receipts. She claims that in her text, in her tweet here, she has the screenshots validating a lot of this. Can anyone else tell me if they've had a chance to look into any of this?
No, Brandon, I have not. I've not had a chance to look at Laura's reporting yet on this. But I guess the message to the American people is it seems like strange bedfellows, Mike Waltz and the Atlantic and the Goldberg and his whole crowd, just like Mike Pence, his favorite source to leak information to is the New York Times. New York Times loves Mike Pence. Mike Pence plays the good little conservative in public, but then in the background, he's backstabbing President Trump, leaking information that would embarrass him to the New York Times. These neoliberals and neocons are strange bedfellows on the surface, but if you look beyond the surface, they make perfect partners because they're able to get both sides of the American aisle, the right and the left, on board when it comes to foreign policy. They may disagree vehemently on some issues of domestic policy, but they are right in line with each other on foreign policy when it comes to getting us involved in these forever wars and fleecing the American taxpayer to pay for all of these, what they call soft power, through USAID, where we're funding all of this junk in foreign countries at the same time we're threatening them with our military. It all goes together. What we've seen with the fraud, waste, and abuse through USAID and the military hard power, which we see going on right now in Yemen and have seen in the past in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Libya, in Syria. It's just on and on and on with these Middle East forever wars. And the right and the left agree on that policy 100%. So they're willing to work with each other, even though they have differences when it comes to domestic policy.
All right. Laura is also, let's see if we go back to it. Laura is also reporting this. Now, you guys tell me your thoughts. The father of Candace Chi Wong, the wife of Alex Wong, the Trump-appointed Chinese Deputy National Security Advisor under Michael Waltz, who is now at the center of the SignalGate scandal, was directly tied to the CCP and the People's Liberation Army of China via his 23-year-long career with AsiaSat, the leading satellite solutions provider in Asia. AsiaSat Holdings is jointly owned by Chinese state-owned CITIC Limited and private equity fund, the Carlyle Group. AsiaSat is essentially partially owned by the CCP as a state-owned entity in China. Dr. Yahoo Chi, Alex Wong's father-in-law, was a key figure in the early development of AsiaChat. He joined the company in 1989, played a pivotal role in the technical operations, according to records I uncovered. And she, by the way, provides them at the bottom of this. Chi's personal ties, writes Laura, extend to U.S. national security circles. He is the father of Candace Chi Wong, who is married to Alex Wong, the current Deputy National Security Advisor under the Trump administration. This familial connection has drawn attention to AsiaSat's operations, particularly given its ownership structure. In 1990, the China International Trust and Investment Corporation, a Chinese state-owned investment firm wholly controlled by the Chinese government, acquired a significant stake in AsiaSat, and it goes on to talk about that. What do you make of this, if indeed true, David?
Wow.
I think that's very alarming. Alex Wong, both of his parents, migrated here from Guangdong Province in mainland China, the People's Republic of China. He's got, as you mentioned, all of his donations are to Never Trumpers, not 1 cent to President Trump's re-election campaign. He worked as Mitt Romney's defense and foreign policy director, and then he subsequently worked for Tom Cotton as one of his top staffers. And then Mike Waltz handpicked him. It's typical for the national security advisor to have to pick his principal deputy, and presidents routinely approve that. So it wasn't really even this was not a Trump pick. This was Waltz's pick, and any potential ties to the CCP family or otherwise by Wong or his Never Trumper status. It goes back, and Waltz has to take responsibility for that as well. So this is just another more damning evidence that Waltz needs to go, and certainly Wong as well.
Here's an article at the Washington.com. 2 law students tied the knot at DAR Constitution Hall, and there they are, April 12, 2014. So it was quite a high-profile wedding. Yes, Leo?
I just think it's interesting that she mentioned the involvement of the Carlyle Group. The Carlyle Group, which many believe was a creation of the Rothschilds, is a very globalist, transnational corporation for which Donald Rumsfeld once served as chairman. As we all know, Donald Rumsfeld was the Secretary of Defense under George W. Bush, if I'm not mistaken, and he was leading the charge for the invasion of Iraq and many other globalist ventures so that he could then get his buddies in the private industry to go in and rebuild the country with no-bid contracts after the U.S. military bombed the heck out of it. Donald Rumsfeld was a really bad actor, a bad apple. He was affiliated with the Carlyle Group, as have several other of these guys who move in and out of government and private industry in the military-industrial complex.
All right, let's see if I can find a little bit more here from Laura. I've been told by sources that Tom Cotton is the individual who helped Alex Wong ascend the ladder in Trump world. Why didn't Senator Tom Cotton do any vetting if he's such a China hawk? How come it took my independent investigation to figure this out? Well, this is a very good question. I mean, if again, the research, and again, she provides at the bottom of her X account, she provides all the, what she says are the receipts. She says, see the receipts here. And I've been verifying some of it sitting off to the side here while you guys talk, because this is all happening so quickly. So it looks like it is actually put together and it's there. Now, why, David, did this not get checked out by the White House? How did this Mr. Wong ever get to the national security staff? David?
Well, I think Alex Wong, he has the bona fides that he's built up within the national security community, much as, if you think about all the deep state officials, in U.S. intelligence that are neocons, that are America last, kind of never Trumpers, there's, a massive number. And we know there's likely a lot of deep state moles burrowed within the U.S. intelligence community under Trump right now that they would still need to root out. So I think Alex Wong is one of those. I don't think he's been, he certainly hasn't been vocal in his opposition to Trump, but he's certainly, he has a long record of supporting neocons, working for neocons. He's worked for neocons exclusively, so I think we can deduce exactly what he believes, and it's basically kind of the old Bush-McCain America last agenda that's been in opposition to Donald Trump.
Now, Candace Wong, I guess, is his wife. Is Mr. Wong's wife is Candace, and we just looked at their little wedding thing. Let me go back, see if I can find the thing. Here we go. Yeah, Candace. So we go to the Washingtonian, WASHINGTONIAN. So Washingtonian, okay, .com. Trying to spell it for you guys and say it. 2 law students tied the knot. There you are, Candace, all right? Candace marries Alex. She becomes Mrs. Wong. Now, if you go research her bio, which again is linked in the X account of Laura Loomer, Laura is saying that here, Mrs. Wong served from 2015 to 2024 as an assistant United States attorney in the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia. Wait a minute. Are you telling me his wife worked for the Biden administration? She would have certainly worked, from 20, and she would have, I guess she worked through last Trump administration too. So this is interesting. I'd like to know more about what she was up to when she was at the DOJ. Leo?
Yeah, it is so incestuous. What more can we say? This is the type of person that we have working on the staff, apparently, of the sitting national security advisor to President Trump. And then we wonder why, Trump thought he could go in and settle the Russia-Ukraine war on day one. But when you have fellows like this working for you, it's should be no surprise that it's taken 2 months and still running, and we have no settlement of that war. They're still killing each other on both sides, and any temporary truce or ceasefire is likely to be violated. And in my opinion, I think we're on a long-term trajectory towards World War III, regardless of any ceasefire that Mike Waltz is involved in gets signed.
It does say in her bio that she was a law clerk to the Honorable Sandra Day O'Connor and Sonia Sotomayor of the United States Supreme Court, and of course Brett Kavanaugh. So again, she's kind of been on all the sides there politically, but I guess that's the way it goes in Washington. I see if there's anything else here. I want to leave anything out because this is a quickly unfolding story. David, do you think that Mike Waltz is going to be able to survive this and Mr. Wong?
I think, this has only been a 2-day, SignalGate crisis, scandal so far, but it's, I think it's up in the air. I think that Trump, behind the scenes, he's been embarrassed and he's been mad at Waltz, but publicly he went out and defended him during a press conference yesterday. But as this continues to build and the evidence continues to amass against Waltz that he's lying, that he has that Walton has connections to the CCP that are family based, and there's just a lot to unpack here. And I think this could easily build into Trump, demanding his resignation.
All right. Any closing comments from you, Leo?
I agree that if it stops, even if the information flow stops where it's at right now, Mr. Waltz is on tenuous ground. I'd give him a 50-50 chance of surviving this. But if information continues to dribble out in the next day or two, he's history. He's done.
But of course, the bigger issue is how many more people have infiltrated the Trump administration, right, Leo? I mean, that's the real concern.
100%.
Somebody said last week, who was it? I read last week. Oh, General Flynn. General Flynn tweeted last week that there have been many traps set for President Trump by the deep state. He put that on X last week.
Well, I think that was very astute, because these deep state plants, what they do is they act like, look at, again, Mike Pence is the model. Throughout the 4 years, Mike Pence's reputation was what? As the loyal foot soldier to Donald Trump, loyal backer of Donald Trump. In public, he was always supporting the president, always saying the right thing, while at the same time in private, he was running to his buddies at the New York Times, Washington Post, and wherever, and leaking information that would embarrass the president. These are indeed traps set for the president. I hope that President Trump realizes this and will cut this guy loose quickly. And any others, by the way, any others who are involved in this sort of trap setting for the Trump administration.
David?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that, in terms of Waltz, the question is, if, he has a reputation now that's been exposed as a leaker from the House Intelligence Committee. What was he leaking, to Goldman? And, what would he be willing to leak now? From the Trump administration. There's no evidence that he's deliberately leaked anything at this point, but just the fact that his worldview in regards to Russia and Ukraine, I wouldn't put it past him at some point to leak information that could be embarrassing to the president.
Wow. And David, I want to go to you. You've got a new
policy objectives.
David, you've got a new article out tonight. Let's see, is this it here? What's it titled, David? Here, no, that's not it. I'm trying to find it on your Substack. What's your new article titled, David?
It's not that new. It's from a couple weeks ago or 10 days ago about the U.S. convene Ukraine's 30-day peace plan or ceasefire to Russia.
Okay. All right. Return of the neocons. Oh, wait a minute. Here it is. Return of the neocons. Trump appoints staunch supportive of America's forever wars to serve in his cabinet. That was November 13th. So the point is, I guess that shows exactly what we were saying. You were warning about some of these guys in that November 13th article, right?
I was, yeah. And what was disturbing to me is those were his first appointments. Those were his top picks that he made public, and that was my number one concern, that he would be his administration, his second term would be recaptured by the neocons just as his first term, and they would be in a position as members of his cabinet and senior administration positions to sabotage all of his great efforts to end our forever wars and restore peace and stability and prevent World War III with Russia and China.
Yep, I was just using the old Control F to find it. There it is. That's where you're warning about Mike Waltz right there. President-elect Trump has already begun announcing many of his senior cabinet member picks, some of them more controversial than others. He announced his chosen neocon. He has announced he has chosen neocon Representative Mike Waltz of Florida, a U.S. Army Reserve colonel, to serve as his national security advisor. Waltz served as a Green Beret and served as a counterterrorism advisor to Vice President Dick Cheney, who notably endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris for president, and later opposed withdrawing large numbers of troops from Afghanistan without strict conditions. Waltz is well known as a hawkish figure and neocon who is more likely to continue to advocate for and push for forever wars than for ending them. If appointed, it remains to be seen how much push for continued conflict will mesh with Trump's goal of ending it, end quote. I guess that's what Lieutenant Colonel Darren Gobb said. David writes, however, on the bright side, Waltz is well informed on the existential threat of super EMP attack, having been briefed by members of the task force on national security, which I helped to lead. So there you are, back in November, warning about Waltz, and here we are tonight, March 26, 2025, voila.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brandon, I had an article December 31st, 2024, titled Donald Trump, Man of Peace or Man of War? 2025 will provide the answers.
Was that Substack or LeoHoman.com?
LeoHoman.com. And I mentioned Waltz. I said the first sign that President Trump was perhaps not a serious anti-globalist was when he opted for Marco Rubio as Secretary of State and Mike Waltz as his national security advisor. With folks like Rubio, Waltz, and I also mentioned Elise Stefanik, whispering in Trump's ear, I see him as potentially a man of war, not a man of peace.
And that was your December article.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'll just tell you guys straight up. I want President Trump to go down as the greatest president of all time, and certainly modern times. And I think he has the potential to do that if he can just screen out these bad people that just keep making their way in. It has to be, I don't know, Washington insiders that tell you why this guy's the one we need to pick, or I don't know if it's donors that pressure people. Certainly, Waltz wasn't giving money, apparently, to Paul Sperry. He says he wasn't giving money to Trump, but something's got to be done. We cannot have this. We're just a little over 60 days into the second term, and now we're finding out, as Leo said, we've got with Mike Waltz, basically a Mike Pence in the inner circle. David? You agree, David?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think this is a great opportunity for President Trump because here we are on the verge of a potential, Chinese invasion or blockade of Taiwan, with peace with Russia almost nowhere in sight. And if he were to ask Waltz to resign and replace him with Elbridge Colby, I think we could steer out of potential World War III with both Russia and China. Well,
that would be a good idea, as always. All right, gentlemen, dpine.substack.com, dpine.substack.com, and Leo Homan is leohoman.com and leohoman.substack.com. Gentlemen, as always, thank you for this fast analysis of a breaking news story.
Thank you, Brandon.
All right, folks, we're reporting it as accurately as we can because, again, this is a breaking news story. I've not been able to fully verify everything that's being put out about Mr. Wong or Mr. Walls or extended family members, but we'll just tell you straight up. We're reporting what's being reported. We see some screenshots that seem to validate it. We'll make any corrections as necessary, but a very fluid story tonight for sure. Hey, remember now, we're brought to you by you. Another long format interview, folks, without a commercial break, but I need you to support us. And please go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. We just built, thank you, Jill, a brand new website, worldviewgold.com. You can get your free packet of information. Just click there, more information. It'll bring you right to the bottom of the page where you can put in your name and information and jump in on the gold investment as a way to diversify your portfolio. I don't give financial advice, I give financial opinion. Do your own due diligence. It starts, I think, with getting the free packet of information on gold, silver, how to put gold into your IRA, the difference between bullion, like U.S. Silver Eagles, U.S. Gold Eagles, freshly minted, if you will, versus 1933 and older. That's known as numismatic. That comes with a premium on it, but you might be able to see your portfolio increase in value from the spot price and the rarity price, the premium price on these antique coins. You also get privacy because they are antique coins. So there is privacy when you purchase them, which is why a lot of people Love them. But you need to figure this all out. You need to go to worldviewgold.com and get the free packet of information, worldviewgold.com. We also have over there, of course, Melissa House GPA. That's the Galatana that I drink each and every day, along with Dolly, who gets half a scoop on her food, loaded with all kinds of great vitamins, magnesium, beta-carotene, amino acids. It's got a lot of other great things that we need and our pets need as well. You can check it out. There's that cat that had a tumor in its eye. They put it on the Galatama, tumor gone. Remember, this is the phytoplankton that gentleman was taking when they said, you know, you're terminal. There's not much we can do for you. And he was growing this plankton for his shellfish. So he started eating it. Went in for surgery. They took out 11 biopsies, sent him off, came back benign. That was in a Canadian newspaper. Remember that? Well, that's how David Hunter ended up starting the Global Plankton Alliance. So again, fascinating story behind all this. I hope you'll check it out. MelissaHouseGPA.com. Do what we do. Get a subscription. Get a subscription so it shows up automatically every month. MelissaHouseGPA.com. We also take this every day. We swish with this every day, and that is Numi. Okay? Swish for Life, or you'll find it at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, otherwise Swish for Life. This swish, which is the best way to get it into your system without it breaking down, is to swish it. You can do an IV, that'll cost you, I think, about $250, and it gets broken down. They say the best delivery mechanism is swishing it in your mouth for about 3 minutes, and then after that, you can spit it out or swallow it. Now you're putting glutathione right into your body. Glutathione is a natural, all-occurring molecule that starts to break down in your body, decrease about age 20. So again, if you want to detox your cells, switch with this. And there's a lot of toxins. We know they're everywhere, right? And keep enough around like we do. Put the date on the bottom and keep them around. So like last week, Melissa, maybe 10 days ago, was getting a really bad sinus infection. Her eye, underneath her eye, was swollen. She started swishing with this on the hour, every hour, knocked it out. A lot of times she has to go get an antibiotic. Not this time. She swished with it on the hour, every hour, all day long. Okay? So check this out. It's got, 162,000 studies on PubMed on glutathione. That's the molecule. The product is Numi. Full details at swishforlife.com, swishforlife.com. I also take my Bella Grace every night. That is melissahousebg.com. It's on here. There it is. melissahousebg.com. 3 powerful ingredients: the collagen, the cat's claw, and the astaxanthin. 80 clinical trials behind it. Get a subscription of this. I take the Galatana, I take the Numi, I take the Bella Grace each and every day. 80 clinical trials behind the elixir. The skincare, Melissa loves it. The weight management, it's all natural. It's also great for your cardiac health, according to the research we've been reading. Lowering your bad cholesterol, raising your good cholesterol, helping with inflammation. It also, we're told, helps to optimize your insulin, normalize your blood pressure, improves your prebiotics, so many other things. Backed by science. Check it out, please. melissahousebg.com. And then Melissa loves the restorative sleep. She loves this. This is all natural, made from botanicals. And this helps her not only get to sleep, but stay asleep. So she loves that. This is the Bella Trim. This is the restorative sleep. And again, you'll check it all out at melissahousebg.com. melissahousebg.com. Let's go to the dolly cam. Is the dolly cam working, boys? Yeah. Sleeping with her head hanging off the old My Pillow pet bed, what she does. I have no idea why you want to sleep like that, Dolly, but she does. I would think all the blood would be rushing to your head, but she does it. Hey, speaking of which, Logan, have we got a My Pillow banner over at sponsors yet?
No, I'll get it up right now.
Oh, he's got to get it up right now, he said. Let's go over there, mypillow.com. Use the promo code B66. When you get there to mypillow.com, go down the page to where it says radio podcast. There you go. That's a little secret to get the best prices. I'm going to start back out, show you how I got there. mypillow.com. Scroll down the page. You see Mike wearing headphones. Click that, And here's where some amazing specials. Spring sheet sales, save 50% or more, okay, on those. My towel 6-piece set, regularly $69.98. The sale price was $49, and they've even brought it down to $39.98 if you use the promo code B66. If you like Mike's Cross, he's now selling those. Those are available as well. You'll find the multi-use MyPillow 2.0 with Roll and Go. Those are they were regularly $40. Then there was the sale price of $24.07. Now they're down to $9.98. He's just giving this stuff away now. The Classic Collection, the standard, that was $49.98. Then the sale price was $29.99. Now $17.98 with the promo code B66. Graduation's coming up. Why not buy the graduate some pillows, sheets, towels, blankets for the graduate that's either going to be heading off to school, more schooling, or getting their first apartment. It's all there. Look at this. The premium MyPillow, $19.98. What's $69.98? Now it's under $20. The regular was about $80. Now it's down to under $25. MyPillow.com/B66. I don't know. Does that work, Logan? Does that work, Logan? MyPillow.com/B66. I never thought of that. I don't think I have, at least for a while. Let's see. MyPillow.com/B66. Yeah. Woo. I forgot all about that. MyPillow.com/B66. MyPillow. And look at that. It brings up all those specials we were just talking about automatically. So there you go. MyPillow.com/B66. Okay. These are just some of our sponsors. We're going to get them on the sponsors page. But in the meantime, they're all there. Check them all out. WorldviewTube.com/sponsors. WorldviewTube.com/sponsors. Joining me now is Patrick Wood. He has a show on our network every Tuesday and Thursday, 6 p.m. Central, Technocracy.news with co-host Logan House. His website's Technocracy.news, and he joins us now. Patrick, welcome back. Let's talk about a brand new article on your website. Technocrats spark global war over crypto supremacy. I want to play a video clip, but tell me about this article.
Well, we see the president just signed an executive order basically banning anything other than electronic payments to citizens of America, for instance, like Social Security checks, other types of disbursements as well. And also they want to encourage now, and if not ban, all incoming receipts from people. And, basically this is going to turn America into an electronic cash register, the government. So this is huge.
So are you saying that they want to make it where if you get a Social Security check, you have to get it through a crypto?
That's right. Well, not crypto, not at this point, but they're going to do it. They're going to send it digitally to your bank account. And that's bad news for all of the people who are unbanked because they're going to be the exception to the rule. But obviously the goal is to get everybody into the banking system altogether.
So I'm guessing from their perspective, they're looking at all of these Social Security payments going out to the tune of, who knows, billions.
Trillions.
Trillions, but the number of people who are getting it that shouldn't be getting it, people that are 300 years old, 200 years old, 150 years old, you're talking about a massive amount of fraud here. And what their defense would be, if we get everybody in the banking system and we validate them, give them a check mark that they're validated, they are who they are. We've all been conditioned for that, right? Today I was looking at something online and I'm like, is that a legitimate post? And it had the Israeli government check mark and they said, yep, this is the official X account of the Israeli government, and they had the official check mark to validate. If you check somebody's credit rating or background using services, it will say verified and a check mark. They verified that is actually that person and their credit rating, not someone who has stolen their information and using it. You can deal as a business owner knowing that's the credit rating of that person. You're good to go. It's been verified. So they're probably, now we've all been conditioned for that using these programs for other businesses and things they might run. But now you've got the idea of, hey, let's validate everybody, get them in the banking system. We can stop printing checks, stop mailing it, wasting all this money, but we can now use our computers to make sure that we're not sending money to people that don't really exist.
That's part of it, for sure. This is the logic behind the universal ID system that's coming, where everybody will be tagged by their universal, if you will, legal identity that can reach into any database in the world or in our country and make sure that that data pertains to you individually. When I say as a legal ID, this is different than just like your social security number, which everybody has at this point, it seems like. So you can't, people steal identities. They start with a social security number. So that's not what we're talking about here. Basically, this universal ID system that will come in, that will regulate all financial transactions going forward.
I couldn't help but, as you were speaking, think about Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, welfare payments, all of this. If we had a constitutional form of government as our founders envisioned, who would, by the way, did not even want to open up the government treasury for the widow of a war hero. They're like, we value that war hero and what he did, and we really understand the sacrifice of his wife and family, but it is not the job of the government to become charity. This should be done by individuals. If we had a constitutional form of government, you would not have any of these payments going out. You wouldn't have Social Security, you wouldn't have Medicaid, you wouldn't have Medicare, you wouldn't have any of this. If the government was confined to its constitutional description, the powers the federal government has are limited and expressed, and the unlisted powers belong to the states and respective people thereof, you would have no basis by which now to say, oh, but we need to make sure you get your Social Security check. We need to make sure you get your Medicaid, your Medicare, your entitlement programs. Isn't it interesting, the old phrase, the slippery slope, how when we get off the course of a constitutional republic, we now open ourselves up to greater tyranny in the long run. And now watch how many people who are dependent on that government check will gladly sign up and comply because they need to get that check. They need to get that payment, But if we had a constitutional form of government, the government would have no reason to ever go to this system because they shouldn't be passing out money to individuals because that's not the purpose of government.
Exactly right. You're actually right. Yeah. This business, however, with all of these technocrats circling around the administration right now, people like Elon Musk and David Sachs and Mark Andreessen and et cetera, these people as a pack now are pushing for a system that's going to be ruled by them in particular, but by AI, and all of the financial records have to be digitized to make that happen. And we see this war taking place right now where the technocrats are pitting themselves against the national governments of the world to take supremacy over this whole crypto space. And we saw when Trump came into office in the first place, he signed an executive order forbidding, at that point, the our central bank, the Federal Reserve, from not issue CBDCs. Well, that kind of put a hamstring on them. But on the other hand, now you see all this talk and conferences being held in Washington, D.C. by the crypto czar, David Sachs. They're all planning at this point to institute another parallel system, perhaps different than what the central bank's digital currency was going to be. But you see this tug of war taking place between the national governments and the technocrat class. Who's going to win this war? Well, who knows? It's certainly the central banks are just not going to go out of existence. They're in the mix. We know that. But on the other hand, we see the greatest central banker in the world, Mark Carney, all of a sudden being installed as a technocrat in Canada, right on our northern border. This guy was the cream of the crop of central banking when he chaired the Bank of England, which that's their central bank, and he was not elected in Canada. He's always been referred to as being a technocrat, but he's also a member of the Trilateral Commission. You can't make this stuff up. The Trilateral Commission is still obviously active in this battle. Is there a battle taking place between the Trilateral Commission, for instance, and these technocrats? I don't think so, because the Trilateral Commission started this whole business of technocracy in the first place in 1973. So
let me define a few terms real quick. Technocracy would, let me try to make that at the street level. Basically, tyranny by digital. Tyranny by digital, right? Using technology and digital to bring about tyranny, to track what you buy, to control where you can go, if you can get on an airplane, if you can get on a computer and log in, be on social media, vote. Everything is going to be done with technology, but the technology will be used for controlling our life, but it'll all be done in the name of convenience, safety, protection, efficiency, fighting fraud, fighting, identity theft.
Yes.
But it's using technology to govern everyone and everything. That's basically a street level explanation of technocracy, correct?
It is, but remember, this is what they're telling us. What the convenience, the stopping fraud, and all that kind of stuff. Those are reasons that they want us to accept what they're going to do. However, it's always been about the economy in the first place. This business of the new international economic order that was started by the Trilateral Commission in 1973. This is still in play today. This reset economic system coming had soon. This was always in the crosshairs of the global elite from the get-go.
Now, I want to stop you there and define for new people Trilateral Commission. Now,
yes.
I remember back in 2017, I had some of these people online criticizing me, saying Brandon House is a conspiracy theorist that believes in the Trilateral Commission. And this is some of these hyper-Calvinists that were trying to find some reason to criticize me. But someone should share the gospel so they don't die and go off to hell versus, worrying about what I'm talking about. But there you go. But they're out there just, the Trilateral Commission, Brandon House talks about, that's conspiracy. The Trilateral Commission is something that a man by the name of Barry Goldwater, who was a U.S. senator who ran for president, who Ronald Reagan campaigned earnestly for, he wrote extensively about the Trilateral Commission in his books, but he got his information largely from you when his chief of staff walked in your office in the early 70s and said, we want everything you got on the Trilateral Commission. So for those who think the Trilateral Commission is some, conspiracy theory, it is a real institution. Tell us who founded it and what was their objective.
Well, exactly. David Rockefeller and Zbigniew Brzezinski were the founders, and their objective was to create literally a new international economic order. They always confessed that. And they when they took over the the Carter administration, they weren't interested in politics. Everybody thought at the time, oh my gosh, we're being hijacked, the political system is under threat, whatever. They didn't care about the political system at all. They hijacked the economic engine of the world, and they played that out in subsequent years by appointing U.S. trade representatives, wrote all the treaties, the presidents of the World Bank and of IMF and those sorts of things. They wanted to have the economic engine of the world under their control. They've done that. They did that in the early 70s. Now we see, and by the way, they were very visible back then because everybody could just point to the people in Carter's administration. Oh, there's one there. They were very visible. Then they went underwater in subsequent years. They hid out, in other words. Now they're back in force again in public with these technocrats who are running our government right now. This is the second time in history these people have dared to surface to take over the economic machinery of the world. This is still not about politics, honestly. A lot of people are arguing about politics and, is this guy, that guy, Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter at this point. This is all about the economic system. This is what's at stake right now. Our country is predicated on economics, not necessarily on politics. But however, we've had a big string of misfortune, I guess, in electing people who haven't done very good for us, the people. But nevertheless, this is about economics today. It's not about politics at all.
Here's a quote from one of my books. U.S. Senator Barry Goldwater ran for president in 1964, and you may remember that during his campaign, Ronald Reagan cut his political teeth giving speeches for Goldwater. Much later, in 1979, Goldwater wrote the book With No Apologies, in which he discussed globalists and the Trilateral Commission. Goldwater explained that the Trilateral Commission and globalists, quote, represents a skillful, coordinated effort to seize control and consolidate the four centers of power, which are political, monetary, intellectual, and ecclesiastical, end quote. That ecclesiastical obviously is the church. So you're talking politics, money, intellectual, academic, media, all that, and the church. So there you go, 1979 with no apologies.
Exactly, yeah.
Ronald Reagan knew about this group, didn't he?
Oh, he did, undoubtedly. He didn't do anything about it because he unfortunately
they tried to kill him in the first, or I don't know if they, but somebody tried killing him in the first 6 months of administration. So I think he kind of backed down a little bit. What say you?
Well, when he accepted George
Bush
as vice president, Bush was a member of the Trilateral Commission. The die was already cast for the Reagan administration, with Bush being in the second spot. He survived for 8 years. Then he has his own presidency for 4 years before Clinton came in. Clinton, by the way, was a member of the Trilateral Commission as well. So we've had a string of the Trilateral Commission influence across multiple administrations, and these people just won't go away. They always have their hat in the ring, if you will, to influence public policy as it relates to economics. You remember when George H.W. Bush said at the beginning of his administration, he said, he talked about the new world order, and it will come, he says, we'll make sure it is going to come. And you see this thread diving, coming up to the surface, coming up to the surface all these years. It's all about the economic system, and it still is today.
So tell me about a documentary. If you go to technocracy.news, and in this article, which I'm going to show you in a minute, but you have embedded a video. What is this video? I'm going to play a few minutes of it. What's the title of it, and when did you produce it?
Well, this video was basically explaining how technocracy is the end game. And it was not produced by me necessarily, but it was a collage of different clips and stuff somebody put together. And it has, for instance, James Corbett talking about technocracy. Has me interviewed for Technocracy. I did an extensive set of interviews circa about, I want to say, 2025, 26 in that area. And a lot of this footage is in here as well. But my point of putting this in the first place, number one, it says it's all about economics. Number two, it explains why the technocrats today are surfacing to take control over the fruit of their tree.
Let's play a little bit of this. Here we go. Watch this.
Relations, their relations with developing countries, and their relations with communist countries, end quote.
The themes and the patterns in Brzezinski's book very closely mirrored early technocracy. And I don't think it was a mistake that he was at Columbia University at that time.
Technocracy billed itself as a social movement, a philosophy, a scientific solution to political and economic problems, and a new way of ordering the world. But at base, it is an idea for a new international economic order, one to be designed and managed down to the most minute detail by a select few, the technocrats.
Technocracy was defined very succinctly in 1938 by their own publication, the Technocrat magazine. and they call it a system of scientific engineering of society. They saw themselves as a merger between hard science and social science, which really is an oxymoron. Social science is not really a science, in my opinion. But they really believed that. So they believed that they could take their scientific method that they used in the hard sciences and apply it to society. They also believed that they alone were the only ones that could run society correctly as a result of technology having come in and changed the fabric of society. They hated politicians. They hated the establishment, the organization of society the way it was, because it was not efficient. It was not, conservation-based, if you will, to conserve resources. And so they just kind of took it upon themselves to define an economic model that would replace capitalism and free enterprise. And that's exactly what it was, a replacement economic system.
We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other publications whose directors have attended our meetings and restricted their policies of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the right publicity. But the world is now more sophisticated and prepared to march toward a world government.
Watergate is a coup d'etat. Watergate is not what you think. Watergate is not two crusading journalists, Woodward and Bernstein, working for the lovable curmudgeon Ben Bradley of the Washington Post and fighting the establishment and scooping the New York Times and doing all this crazy stuff. Watergate is a coup d'etat. It's quite evil, as you can see from the results, brought about by this same bankers clique with the help of CIA, FBI, Henry Kissinger, and the rest. And Gerald Ford is essentially a bit player, a walk-on part in this. And it reminds us that, simply being president of the United States doesn't really indicate very much that you have special power. You can easily be a puppet, as indeed he was, a puppet of Kissinger. They say, let us make Nixon into a terrible example. Let us destroy him, and let us use that to permanently weaken not just the presidency, because they wanted to weaken the presidency, but let's weaken the Congress too. Let's subject the congressional committee system to a Watergating process, which we can then use to assert more and more financier control over the government. Because I think you can see this aspect in Watergate as it plays out over just a few more years, perhaps, than the mid-'70s. So this is what they do. And the idea with it is something like this. It starts with leaks. Whenever you have leaks, you have to wonder what's going on. Is the overthrow of the president going to be prepared? In the case of Nixon, the leak is the leak of the Pentagon Papers in the summer of 1971, I guess it is, which is essentially a bunch of secrets that are not secrets. Anybody who had been reading Le Monde or any competent European paper knew all this stuff. There was nothing in the Pentagon Papers that was really new. But it was an occasion when the Pentagon Papers were leaked and the New York Times published them and the Boston Globe and the Washington Post and the whole establishment came out to support the leaking of these papers by Daniel Ellsberg, a nuclear targeting planner of the Rand Corporation, not an innocent babe, I'm sure, but rather somebody playing an assigned part. At this point, Kissinger is able to go to Nixon and play on his paranoia, saying to him something like, Mr. President, these leaks are killing us. We can't have a competent government if we've got the leaks of all of these important documents. He says, look, there are all these leaks. We've got to do something about it. We've got to create a special secret police in the White House to fight the leaks. These are the plumbers.
Good evening. And
there you go. And I have interviewed Roger Stone extensively. He thinks the CIA was behind Watergate as well. Interesting how history seems to repeat itself. Now we've got the leak, if you will, of the app, the Signal app, and I'm very concerned about this individual, Mr. Wong, his wife, who I'm concerned who they're tied to. So again, I guess the point I'm trying to make is this a setup of Donald Trump? Are they using leaks again to get over on him as they got over on Nixon?
Good question. I wouldn't put anything past these people at this point. They've done it in the past. They could do it again. However, leaks always sow confusion, and confused people cannot see clearly. They'll never see what's going on. In other words, it's like the magician's trick. You have left hands doing something where the trick is actually taking place on the other hand. And this has been off and on. Oh my gosh, every presidency's had their episodes of leaks. And Obama had it, certainly Bush before him. Clinton had a bunch of leaks just like this. And you look back in history, this was played on the American people all along. What was going on behind the scenes that they did not want everybody to see? Well, this was the economic incursion going. The fabric of our country was being ripped out from under us with this technocrat theme of creating a new economic order. Well, here we are today. Same stuff, exactly.
Mm. And tell me, if you will, as we get ready to wrap, what's going on with Steve Bannon? He said he was going to use all his influence to stop Elon Musk from getting in the White House. That hasn't happened. Why is Steve Bannon being so vocal against Elon when I know he's been such a big supporter of Donald Trump?
That's a good question. I don't fully understand where Steve is coming from. Honestly, I listen to him occasionally. I don't want to comment, I don't think, on his mindset at this point. We do know that he had a fondness for Curtis Yarvin's philosophy somewhere along the way in the past. He's not talking about that today, but that's been documented historically. He had a fondness for Yarvin. He's talked with him before.
And for those who don't remember, that's the guy we dealt with last week that is calling for what?
The Dark Enlightenment. In particular, remember, Elon Musk wears this black
dark MAGA
hat, the dark MAGA hat. He's the only one that wears it. He's been wearing it ever since November 70 of 24, and everybody gave him a pass. What's this all about? He's just looking cool, He's just doing something different. No, this was a signal for his dark MAGA movement to move ahead. And the wearing of that hat called all these other technocrats to him from Silicon Valley in particular to put their application in for Doge.
Which Yarvin is promoting a dark enlightenment.
Yes, exactly. It's the same thing. They're intent on destroying democracy and constitutional republic altogether.
And replacing it with technocracy,
yes.
Where you have unelected bureaucrats, unelected leaders using technology to orchestrate and control society and set public policy.
Exactly. And again, it's all about economics. However, they want to control all economic output and all consumption from people like American people. They want to control both ends of it, the spectrum, so that they can make the economy more efficient for them, not for us, but for them. They will reap trillions of dollars off this if they get this whole thing, put to bed.
And it's going to be sold to us again, cutting waste, cutting fraud, protection, safety, security. It's going to be sold to us like that. So we have a new executive order, March 25th, 2025, modernizing payments to and from America's bank account. And again, what you're saying is this is basically going to require anyone that's getting Social Security, for example, they're not going to get a check in the mail anymore. They're going to have to show up and open a bank account or obviously, I don't know how you cash I don't know how they're cashing Social Security checks now without a bank account. I don't know. Can you go to Kroger or can you go to the bank and just cash it and get a?
Yes, there are companies around the states who are cash They're cash companies.
It's one of those cash businesses you see a lot of times in the inner city, where you show up with your Social Security or government check, they take a percentage and then cash it for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Hand you back paper cash.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
that's right.
so that's going to go away. Everyone's going to have to get a bank account.
That's right.
Which again sounds good, because we need to account for this money. We can't have trillions of dollars, billions and billions and trillions being wasted. We got to verify people. We can't have 9-year-olds getting, small business association loans. Didn't you heard that this week, right?
Yes, I know. Incredible.
How much was that? Let me look it up. Do you remember how much that was?
I don't remember. All of this stuff that's been leaked out from Doge, it's all it can't be verified. So we have to believe what they're saying. I just a little bit skeptical about all the stuff that they've surfaced at this point. I hope they are being honest about it, but I wouldn't put them past it.
Well, I found the clip here. This is just this week. Yeah. This is just this week.
Administration where they were handing out loans, $330 million worth of loans to people under the age of 11. I think the youngest, Kelly, was a 9-month-old who got a $100,000 loan. That's a very precocious baby we're talking about here.
We're tackling the fraud, waste, and abuse in the agency. We've seen, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud go unprosecuted, so we're taking that on. We have a zero tolerance policy for fraud, and we continue to crack down on it and make sure people are held accountable.
And you have a lot of that. We've found far too much of it. It's a pure fraud. We like to use the words waste and abuse because they sort of sound good, but many of these things are pure fraud.
The Small Business Administration where they were handing out.
Did she say hundreds of billions in fraud?
That's right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, again, you can see where the American people are going to say, yeah. I did a show in 2020 on the fact that the United Nations, one of the goals of the United Nations is, I think it's goal 16.9 of the Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, is to have everybody registered. Everybody gets a digital ID. Everybody gets registered. And they had a conference at the United Nations called ID 2020, I think it was. And in early 2020, I did a TV show during COVID when we had a lockdown. We started doing TV every night because we had a captive audience. And I did a whole segment on ID 2020 at the UN. And I said, watch how this will be sold by the people on the right to cut down on illegal immigration, to make sure that illegal immigrants aren't getting government money, to make sure people aren't cheating the entitlement programs. Voila, here we are. And it will be sold that way. And that's a good use. But the problem is, like so much, it's not the technology, it's how we use the technology. And what you're saying is it's setting up for a technocracy where everything is controlled. And I think what it's setting up for, frankly, is the mark of the beast system where no one's going to be able to buy or sell. It's not the beast system, but I think that's what it's setting up for. What say you in closing?
It probably is. And we can see it. We can see how AI isn't developing at this point. It's going to be stunning in a few years, just absolutely over the top stunning. And most people will be so fooled by it at that point, they will not be able to tell if they're talking to a human or to a machine.
Well, Logan showed me a video that's out this week. I don't even know what the new technology is called, Logan, but he showed it to me, and you cannot tell that the individual's not real. You can't tell.
Yes, exactly.
Here's the article. Technocrats spark global war over crypto supremacy. Technocrats spark global war over crypto supremacy. And you can watch this whole video. It's an hour long that features also our guest here, Patrick Wood, Technocracy in-game. You can find it at technocracy.news, technocracy.news. Patrick, as always, thanks for being with us.
You bet. Good to be with you.
You too, my friend. Patrick Wood checking in. Joining me now is our reporter, Aaron Lavarco from Israel, who's now in Indiana, but he is normally in Israel. He'll be with us, by the way, April 15th. That's a Tuesday night. And I'm told between online and by phone, we now have 1,000 people registered. It's going to be a big blowout event. The tickets are free, but you have to register online or by phone. Worldviewtube.com/events, worldviewtube.com/events, or you'll find our phone number on our website. You can register by phone with Melissa. Aaron, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Great to be with you, Brandon.
Aaron, let's talk about a story that I'm going to also deal with tonight with Bob Kranuk. And that is the Ark of the Covenant, says an article on the Daily Mail today. The Ark of the Covenant has been found. Now, as I read the article, I found out real quick, the CIA was apparently using a psychic to do what they call, remote viewing. And I'm like, okay, that's all I need to hear. CIA, psychic, sorry. But isn't it interesting, but at least for a little bit today, that was the headline at Daily Mail and going all over social media. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, firstly, whether it's a psychic or not, do they have the Ark? We can talk about how they, found it afterwards. The big question is has it been found or not? Now, I want to see some evidence. There's the article. For it to be in a paper of this quality, the Daily Mail, I mean, there's got to be something in it. So number one, has it been found? Number two, who cares? Who cares how they found it? I'm not going to give any glory to someone if it's a psychic. It's definitely, even in the Bible, there were magicians. Pharaoh had magicians. They also could turn their
staffs
into snakes, as well as Moses. Moses has just happened to swallow up there. So there is magic, there is witchcraft. But I don't care much for that. Neither does God, and he makes it very strict against it. But I want to see some evidence, because there's been rumors for decades that it has been either in the Vatican, it's either in the Ethiopian church, or it's even in our hands in the treasures of the temple. Rabbi Chaim Reichman, maybe he has it. So this topic, we always get excited about this topic, Brandon, and it excites me. Let's see. I want to see it with my own eyes, as long as I don't as long as it doesn't kill me because I had a glimpse at it, which I don't think it will.
Yeah. Let's move now to Israel. What's the latest in your country?
Well, Brandon, our military are really upping the ante as far as our attacks on the people of Hamas, the terrorists. We are lifting or shifting a gear, and our defense minister, who has only came into his new position about 2 months ago, he is a non-compromising man. He is not playing politics. He's there to do a job, and he's doing it. And so he has ordered our air, our soldiers on the ground, including tanks, to go in. And what we're doing, we are taking out communities, we're taking out buildings, infrastructures, more of what we were doing over the first year of this war, but we're doing it more strategic, more tactical, and thankfully, we're not losing many soldiers while we're doing it, which means this looks like the end of Hamas is at hand.
In fact, so at hand that they got a blue check mark. This is the official X account for the state of Israel. They are reporting that for the first time in years, Gazans are rising up against Hamas, chanting Hamas out. But they know the truth. Hamas's refusal to release the hostages is fueling war and the suffering of the people of Gaza. The world must support their struggle to break free of Hamas's tyranny. So the people of Gaza finally rising up. Wow.
Okay, Brandon, let me comment about that, because we were talking about this earlier. Now, if it is genuine, this is something new. This is something, because Hamas are the people that run the streets. The PA, they run the political around the world. Hamas run what's going on the street. And for them to lose power, or at least for there to be some resistance. Now, it's been said that Hamas are not going out onto the streets and killing these Palestinian protesters. Why? because if they do go out on the streets, may be targets by the Israeli Defense Forces. That is one way of looking at this, that the people are fed up, the Palestinian people are fed up, they're going out on the streets, and they know that if Hamas leaders go out, they could be hit. But here is another case scenario possibility that maybe these protests, Brandon, are all part of Hamas's strategy, and that they are sending the people out on the streets so that the international community will be in favor of new elections. And new elections means the people will vote for Hamas, and Hamas will be looked upon as the legitimate people to be voted for. I don't trust not only Hamas, but can we trust these protests out on the streets? Time will tell. But what I'm reading, Brandon, is that we're looking at it with great caution. But let's hope that the people are fed up with Hamas and that there are actions taken and that this is the end of Hamas.
Well, here's the Israel National News. Hamas out, white flag and Star of David at mass demonstrations in Gaza. Demonstrations in Gaza call for the removal of Hamas. Demonstrators wave banners. Hamas does not represent us. I wonder what all these college protesters who've been standing up for the PLO are going to say now that some of the folks in the Gaza may actually be opposed to Hamas themselves. I thought they were freedom fighters. Apparently, people in the Gaza don't see them as freedom fighters like the idiots on America's college campuses.
Yeah, that's right. These people from these universities, these campuses, it's all been blamed on Israel. And part of our defense all along is saying, we want to see Palestine being freed. But it's not an issue of being freed from the Israelis. It's an issue of being freed from Hamas. And maybe these protesters, maybe their cry is now going to be heard when the Palestinian people themselves overthrow Hamas, or maybe Egypt, or maybe Qatar get behind them and come to their aid. Let's see.
What about some terrorist attacks? You guys are having more terrorist attacks in Israel the last few days, correct?
We are, Brennan. We are, and alarmingly, they are from not Palestinian people alone, but from Israeli Arabs. And that is a big concern. We have 2 million of them living in our borders. And some of them I work with, some of them are in our justice courts, some of them are police officers. So very, very alarming. Some of them are Hamas people inside of Judea and Samaria, that somehow they make their way into our territories. So this means that we've got to, our security have got to continue to be on alert as much as they can. And let's just hope that our citizens who hold weapons, they don't get fed up and they take matters into their own hands. But it may need that we may need to do that.
Where are we at with talk about Iran and striking Iran? Israel, America working together. Any updates on that story?
Yes, there are updates, Brendan, and the updates are Donald Trump. Donald Trump has continued to give messages to the Iranians. I think he's been very gracious. He wants the international inspectors on nuclear weapons to be able to go in and do inspections. And he's saying this will be the diplomatic, peaceful solution. And he said, if this does not work, and I believe the latest I heard, Brandon, about 3 days ago, he gave a 2-month deadline. 2-month deadline. Now, if that doesn't happen, he says other options are on the table, and we all know what that is. But what is interesting, Brandon, I was listening yesterday on a YouTube interview of the ex-Shah of Iran, his son, the Crown Prince. And he was asked about that. He was asked, do you see either a diplomatic solution or a military solution as the answer? And it was really interesting. He said, neither. He said, I don't see that as an answer. He said, we cannot trust the Ayatollah, so a diplomatic solution is absolutely out of the question. And he said, a military solution is going to be absolutely ugly and problematic. What he would like to see is somehow the local people who, he said already, they're fed up with the regime in Iran. They want to see a change. They are peace-loving people, and he wants to see somehow those people, the commoners, somehow rise up and bring about a democracy or a big change. That's what he wants to see.
Let's switch to Turkey in closing. What's the latest you're hearing? People in the streets protesting, and I think one of the political opponents of the president of Turkey, Erdogan, has been arrested, right?
If it's the same person we're thinking of, it's actually the mayor of not Istanbul, not Ankara, the mayor of a major city. He was arrested and he was falsely accused. He's now been exonerated.
Mm-hmm.
But people are going out on the streets. They're raging. They're rampaging out on the streets. Now, what's happened is Erdogan has sent out a message saying, we will not tolerate terrorists out on the streets. So guess who he has sent out to deal with these quote-unquote terrorists? He sent out people from Al-Qaeda to deal with them, as if they are not terrorists. And he did this in the past. He did this in Syria. He did this against the Turks. He uses terrorists, and then he turns it on the common people of the nation and calls them terrorists. We need to be praying for the people of Turkey. But apart from that, we've got our eyes very much on Turkey because they've moved into northern Syria. They want to strengthen HTS, the new regime in Syria, Jolani, and we will not put up with that. So all eyes definitely are on Turkey.
And there's reason to believe that Turkey is part of the Gog-Magog coalition as well, isn't there?
We believe, going back 30, 40, 50 years, I remember reading about end time commentators back then saying, like Derek Prince, say, keep your eye on Turkey. And they're very close allies with Iran, with Russia, although at times they're enemies with Russia. But when it suits them, when it comes to selling either armaments or natural resources, yeah, they will shake hands with people like Russia. And even North Korea. So we are concerned about any coalition formed in the north of Israel.
Aaron Lavarco, our reporter from Israel, who's now in Indiana, and you can find his speaking schedule at lighttothenationsministry.com, lighttothenationsministry.com. And again, he'll be speaking, keynote speaker, at our Worldview Radio Rally, April 15th, 6:30 to 9:30. You got to register. It's free, worldviewtube.com/events. Aaron, thank you.
Pleasure, Brandon. God bless.
Aaron Lavarco checking in again and get registered for that event coming up. It's again, we've got about 1,000 people registered already. It's going to be a great time. We're going to have a blast. Worldviewtube.com/events. Worldviewtube.com/events. And as always, folks, remember we can do more with your help. That rally's free. Well, we're going to take an offering. We're going to take an offering to offset our cost. Or at least try to, the building, flying in the speakers, giving them a very reasonable honorarium. We try to do so much for free, folks. Free radio shows, free TV shows, free Worldview Weekend Rally. We do so much, but we need your support. Please consider going now. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. I check every day to see what's coming in online. And I must tell you, 2 days ago, I was like, are you kidding me? Yeah, it was discouraging to look. There are other days I'm like, wow, that's a great day. And other days it's like, are you serious? We couldn't operate for 1 hour. Literally, we couldn't operate for our network for 1 hour for what I saw come in the other day. It cost over $40,000 a month to keep this network going. And that doesn't include my compensation. I'm just talking about paying the guys in the control room, the insurance, the air conditioning, because we got to keep all these servers cool so they don't overheat and destroy, all of the insurance we have to carry, all of the licenses we have to pay for copyright license, we have to license B-roll footage, graphics, the license that we have to pay for software. I mean, you can't believe the cost we have, okay? Plus, we give a regular love offering to Aaron for all his great reporting as well. And of course, we're working with Neil on that DC bureau we're working on. So again, we need your support, folks. Please, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address, but we really do need to hear from some of you today. Worldviewfoundation.com. Joining me now is Bob Cornuke to talk about, well, the article that is going out around the country today in the world. Secret CIA files claim Ark of the Covenant has been found. Okay, this is something we've talked about for a few decades now, thanks to our friend Bob Cornuke. I got kind of excited today until I read it, and I think it's a big nothing burger. Sorry to be anticlimactic here, but let's get into this with Bob Cornuke. Bob, welcome. Glad you're with us.
Brandon, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. Thank you for joining us. Did you read the article? The CIA thinks they think they have found, or at least they think they have a description of where it's at. Now they just got to find the building. They claim they have someone that was involved in, what's it called, remote vision or something? Remote viewing. So I read the article. Turns out it's a psychic. I'm like, oh, come on. And they claim that it's in a mosque somewhere. Is the CIA really fooling around with this kind of foolish stuff? It's question number one. But anyway, it gets headlines. Isn't it amazing how many people are so intrigued by the Ark of the Covenant? You've been searching for it for a few decades. Give us your thoughts on all this.
Well, I have. I've been looking for it for a long time. I've had 22 trips to Ethiopia just on that tradition alone, wrote 2 books on it. I've gone all over the world talking to people, interviewing people about the Ark of the Covenant. It would be the number one find, archaeologically speaking, ever if we find it. The problem is people don't realize what the Ark of the Covenant is and what it's made of. There's so many allusions to that. People think it's all gold. It's solid gold. It's ridiculous. It's not. The Bible never says it's solid gold. The Bible is made. The Bible says that the ark is made out of acacia wood. Acacia wood, of course, erodes and decays over time. It is not solid gold. It'd be too heavy for the Levites to carry it on stave poles. So the ark is made out of this acacia wood tree, and then it's laminated over with gold. Even the poles are made out of wood. So there's one part of the ark, though, that's mentioned as being pure gold, not solid gold, but pure gold. And it's described as being the top portion of the ark. There's 2 parts, or really 3 parts of the ark, the stave poles. Then you have the ark itself, the box or the container. Then you have the top of it, which is known as the mercy seat, crowned that by Martin Luther. So the top of the ark is hammered gold. It's not solid gold. It's like a hubcap that you turn upside down, or a mask that you turn upside down. It's hammered gold, so it would be very light, and it'd have 2 cherubims on the top of it, or angel-like objects that face each other. And that in between is where the mercy seat is, where they put the blood of propitiation on the top of the ark and in front of the ark. So people have misconceptions about the ark, what it is, where it is, and why people are saying it. But because it's so important, people have been manufacturing and hoaxes about the ark for centuries now. I stumbled across the search for the ark, try to give clarity and bring a sense of, non-sensationalism to the ark search. And I've really found that there are a lot of people that are just using this as a big scam. A big scam. During the Civil War and after the Civil War, there's so many people killed that they have mystics out there and soothsayers and seances, and it became very, very popular. And then during the early 1900s, there's a guy named Harry Houdini that came out, and he was an illusionist. He knew that he was an illusionist. He told people he's an illusionist, but he started fighting all these people that are doing seances to these gullible people, wanting to meet with Uncle Clem that died in the Civil War, or grandpa that died here. They want to meet with him. Became very popular for these people to do seances and mystics. We still have today, if you go to any carnivals, you have people say they can read your palm, they can read your fortune, which is just antithetical to what God teaches us. And we should not be gullible by these people. There's going to be more great sensational claims after this interview. There have been many before, but I'm telling you what, I have researched this more than just about anybody on the planet, and I know where all of the hucksters are, and I am going to be exposing them in the next year. I'm putting a book together about that.
Oh, excellent. Well, the article in the Daily Mail talks about the CIA in the 1970s, the 1980s, the Defense Intelligence Agency and several other intelligence agencies, including the CIA, employed individuals alleged to have paranormal capabilities as means of acquiring intelligence about distant events. Project Sunstreak attempted to use psychics known as remote viewers to gather intelligence on targets using only coordinates. They go on to say that this psychic, and I am totally opposed to this, the Bible says that nothing to do with these kind of things, but claims that the Ark of the Covenant is, I guess, is located somewhere in the Middle East, as the language spoken by the individuals presented seemed to be Arabic. The psychic wrote, the psychic described nearby building that resembled mosques, domes, and individuals clothed in virtually all white with black hair and dark eyes. One figure I homed in on wore a mustache, they wrote. The target's hidden underground, dark and wet, were all aspects of the location of the target. The purpose of the target is to bring people together. It has something to do with ceremony, memory, homage, the resurrection. There's an aspect of spirituality, information, lessons, and historical knowledge far beyond what we know. Okay, why on earth is the CIA fooling around with psychics, number one? But number two, once I read the word psychic, I knew this was a bogus report. So it does start out, however.
The Bible says, I'm sorry, Brandon, the Bible says, beware lest anyone cheat you through philosophy and empty deceit, according to the tradition of man, according to the basic principles of this world, and not according to Christ. Here's where we can unpack this. If it's not according to the Bible or Christ, we need to discount it. The Bible says that mysticism, soothsaying, all that is of the devil.
Yep.
It's a tool of the devil, which is a deceptive tool trying to dissuade people from the truth. Do you think God in all his wisdom and majesty would say, I'm going to use a mystic to find this most holy object? No. We need to be aware, and people are cheating people in their faith, and there's a lot of gullible people out there, and their Christians are right in the front of that. They'll believe it and they'll buy it, and if it's packaged correctly, because they want it to be right. No, we need to be steadfast in our grounded research in this stuff, and people are being just bamboozled with these articles. They believe it. It deflects their faith. They start saying, well, mysticism has more power than anything else. Let's follow what mystics say. It's a tool of the devil. This is all satanic that's coming out with this stuff.
I agree. The article does say this, though, Bob. There is also a legend that the artifact was taken to Ethiopia and now resides in a local church. Well, that's you went there, like you said, multiple times, wrote 2 books on this. So they're at least citing the possibility of it being in Ethiopia. You've said before, I don't know if it's the original, I don't know if it's a decoy, but you're not.
We don't know.
We don't know.
They either have the Ark of the Covenant in Ethiopia, or they have a replica that they believe to be the Ark of the Covenant, because that country is immersed. Everybody you talk to in that country, talk to anybody at an airport from Ethiopia, do you believe the Ark of the Covenant's in Oxfam? They're going to say yes. I can make a really good case for it getting there, because the last time we know the Ark was in existence, or is mentioned in the Bible, is 701 BC, when Hezekiah was praying to God, when Sennacherib had him surrounded. He was at the temple. He laid out the letter before God, and he talks about, he gave the letter to the God that dwells between the cherubims. Well, we know that the Ark is in residency at that time in 701 BC. After that, it's completely gone. We don't know where it goes. But after that is a bad king that comes about named Manasseh, and he's just evil. The Bible says the streets land with innocent blood, because the loyal Levites took it out somewhere. And the Bible says it shall not be a burden on your shoulders anymore. It means the Ark is being carried outside of Jerusalem. These people say it's in Jerusalem are wrong. Scripture saying it's going outside of Jerusalem. At that exact time, we have on Elephantine Island in Egypt, we have evidence of a building there called Beta Israel, which means House of Israel, and they say that the Ark was there. The archaeologists say that the Ark is there. I've interviewed them. I have them on camera saying that the Ark was there. And after 200 years, it was taken down the Nile River, up the Nile River to Ethiopia. And there, they say that's where it was housed on an island called Tanakirkos. And then the country was converted to Christianity when King Hosanna was converted to Christianity. And then the ark then was taken to Aksum, where it is today. It makes all the sense in the world, but the problem is I cannot make that leap and say it's there. I can say that they think it's there. They describe it in startling detail. They won't let anybody see it. I've been privy to talk to the guard of the ark, and he's told me what it looks like, and I've been vowed to silence and not telling exactly where it is or how it is. I told them I would not share that, but they give some really strong details. Whether the ark is there or not is really not important, because the ark has already done its job. We now have the blood of Christ, which we don't have to put on the top of the ark anymore. The blood of Christ was on the cross, and that's what we need to focus on, because our salvation comes from the blood of propitiation from Christ and not from a box anymore.
All right. Amen to that. All right. While we got you here, let's go to something else. You've looked for Mount Sinai, which I think you guys found. You've looked for the Ark of the Covenant, which you just talked about. And you spent several decades looking for Noah's Ark. You went on some expeditions with one of the men that walked on the moon, Jim Irwin. And now we have the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail seems to like to talk about the Ark of the Covenant and Noah's Ark. Well, here they have an article they put out this month, March 10th, 2025. Has Noah's Ark been found? Boat-shaped mound in Turkey was underwater 5,000 years ago, scientists say, the same period as the biblical flood. Now, this is not new. We've seen pictures of this object in the ground like that for years and years. Why all of a sudden is this gaining interest again, Bob?
Because there's three things. When I did a special for CBS, they told me the three things that people are most interested in are ghosts, UFOs, and Noah's Ark.
Wait a minute, ghost, UFOs, and Noah's Ark.
That's what they said to people. That's why you see so many documentaries and things on these subjects, because people will look at that more. They're fascinated with this stuff. Now, I've looked for Noah's Ark more than anyone that's ever lived. That's a big statement. By foot, by hoof, by boat, by plane, by helicopter. I've traveled up and down, and I went to 5 times to Iran and chronicled all of their legends over there. I've been to Turkey. Let me tell you, this is rubbish. First of all, that object, there are hundreds of them around looking just like that. It's where the water comes down and erodes and hits a rock, and it goes around and creates this object that looks like a boat. The Bible says it was an ark. Ark in Hebrew is a square shape or a coffin-shaped object, such as so ark is not, that doesn't even fit there. The ark didn't need to have a pointed front or pointed back, a prow or a stern, because it doesn't need to have hydraulic efficiency going through the water. It just floated. It was a big barge that just floated in the water. This particular object, I took over Jim Irwin, who's a geologist trained for moon rocks, John Baumgartner from Los Alamos, many other top geologists, and they say this is just a big earthen object and nothing more. I have discovered people trying to scam people, where they go and they put drill bits going down into that, auger bits going down 10 feet. They put wood chips down there covered in oil and tar, and then they cover it up with dirt. They come back a year later and put the auger bit at the same place. And when those wood chips come up, one guy in particular, I don't want to mention his name, he received $15,000 checks from 5 doctors who were with him on this. It's all a scam. So what I have been trying to do in the last part of my life is say, I'm going to expose these scams. And there are numerous scams, starting all the way back with, let's say, where the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is, the most holy site in all Christendom, people have said. It's in Jerusalem. It's a Catholic a shrine right now that says where Christ was crucified, buried, and where he resurrected, all within the same area with a couple hundred feet inside this church. They have it all there. But that was found by Queen Helena in about the 4th century. And she went over there and said the same thing that these guys are saying. I have a vision that it's here. I have a mystical vision that it's here, but I don't know where it is. So what they did is they put out the memo and said to everybody, I know that this is the area. Does anybody know where the three crosses of Christ are? And this guy comes out from the shadows. His name is Judas, not the Judas from the Christ crucifixion. It was a common name. And he said, I can show you where these three crosses are. So they dug up these three crosses, massive crosses, heavy, weighing about 300 pounds apiece, we estimate. Found the rod with the sponge on it they put to Jesus' mouth, and also the crown of thorns. Okay, now this now has become the holy place of where.
But you're saying it was all. You're saying it was all a scam.
It was all a scam because what they did is this guy to prove that the cross was from Christ, they took these crosses over to a sick woman and they gently hovered them over her. First one nothing, second one nothing, third one she jumped up and she's healed. And now these wooden objects are found in every church throughout. In fact, Calvin said that there's more pieces of these wood crosses around that you can build a Spanish galleon with, because every church has this little fragment of the wood. These are tools of Satan. These tools found by people that are mystical. Now, what happened to Mr. Judas? He became the bishop of Jerusalem and retired a Jew, retired being the bishop of a Christian church over there, a fabulously wealthy guy. Because Helena went over there to find these crosses. That was her mission, to find these crosses. And so they were found west of the temple. Now, where was Christ crucified? East of the temple. So how could these be crosses used to crucify Christ when it's completely opposite of what Scripture tells us? Opposite of what Scripture tells us. These frauds have been going on for generation and generation, and whole religious entities have been created because of them. People worship this. The golden tablets of we have of Joseph Smith. Okay, all a fabrication. And so these whole religions that are now the wealthiest in the world have come from visions. Always a vision. Jesus, what does the Bible say about in Galatians? He says, even if an angel of the Lord preaches to you something other than what I say, be accursed. And then it says it again. It's the strongest admonition in the New Testament. Be accursed if you say that an angel is changing any word that we say. What are the two fastest religions in the world? Mormonism and Muslims, all founded by one individual having an encounter with an angel saying something different than what the Bible says. The Bible warns this, and people aren't paying attention. If they buy this stuff, it's really sad. So you're not buying what the Daily Mail is selling when it comes to that Noah's Ark story, I can tell, obviously. I think we need to stop, and I'm going to say, it's so easy to make sensational claims. That's why when I go find things, I try to back up everything I say with Scripture. And if I can't back, all my books and things are, this is Scripture, and we can't say, we cannot say with certainty these things because they happened a long time ago. We can say we have reason to believe that this could be it. In other words, I say what I think I know, what I don't know. And I try to be very clear about that. Most people that do these searches just claim what they don't know, and they sell a lot of stuff on it, which is sad.
Yeah, it is. Take a look at this, folks. baseinstitute.org, baseinstitute.org. You'll find out about all of what Bob has done, his work, his research, his documentaries. And that's going all over today, the story about the Ark of the Covenant. But boy, I read it. I thought, oh, great. The CIA is using a psychic. Okay, I'm not buying this. But I knew Bob would want to comment on it. And I appreciate your coming on, Bob.
Can I just one more minute?
Yeah.
On Noah's Ark, it doesn't matter if we find Noah's Ark, because the Ark was a forerunner of Christ. It's a symbol of Christ. If you're on that Ark, you're saved, and if you're off that Ark, you're perished. There's no spiritual Switzerland. We're not in the middle. So what we have is the Ark itself was simply a forerunner of Christ, explaining what salvation is, so that when Christ would come along, the ancient world would see this and write it in their ancient writings, and they would see what salvation is. That's why you have a lot of blood sacrifices talking about the Lamb and Christ being there. There was all forerunners of Christ. And so the Ark itself was, if you're on that Ark, you survived, and you're off the Ark, you're perished. If you're with Christ, on the spiritual ark of Christ, you're survive. If you're off that ark, you're going to perish. And it's very simple. There is black and white. God doesn't paint in pastels and uncertainties. Everything in Scripture has a reason and a purpose.
100%. That's why we like you, Bob. You're committed to the same foundation we are. Baseinstitute.org. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye, everybody.
Bob Kernut checking in, folks. Baseinstitute.org. All right, before we go tonight, I want to play a quick video for you. I guess this took place in one of the hearings today. By the way, I don't know who's sitting back behind Mr. Gill, but that guy back there has that tie. I have that tie. I wore that tie, I think, yesterday or the day before. I wore that tie this week. I have that tie. It's a nice tie. I get a lot of compliments on it. But anyway, I'm being distracted. You got to see this. National Public Radio, the head of it, I guess, testified today. You've got to see this before we go tonight. Watch this.
Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half decade.
It has evolved. Why did you tweet that?
I don't recall the exact context, sir, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay. Do you believe that America believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You tweeted that in reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently, The Case for Reparations.
I don't think I've ever read that book, sir.
You tweeted about it. You said you took a day off to fully read The Case for Reparations. You put that on Twitter in January of 2020.
Apologies, I don't recall that I did.
Okay.
I'd no doubt that your tweet there is correct, but I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you believe that white people inherently feel superior to other races?
I do not.
You don't? You tweeted something to that effect. You said, I grew up feeling superior. How white of me. Why did you tweet that?
I think I was probably reflecting on what it was to grow up in an environment where I had lots of advantages.
It sounds like you're saying that white people feel superior.
I don't believe that anybody feels that way, sir. I was just reflecting on my own experiences.
Do you think that white people should pay reparations?
I've never said that, sir.
Yes, you did. You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, yes, the North, yes, all of us, yes, America, yes, our original collective sin and unpaid debt, yes, reparations, yes, on this day.
I don't believe that was a reference to fiscal reparations, sir.
What kind of reparations was it a reference to?
I think it was just a reference to the idea that we all owe much to the people who came before us.
That's a bizarre way to frame what you tweeted. Okay, how much reparations have you personally paid?
Sir, I don't believe that I've ever paid reparations.
Okay, it's just for everybody else.
I'm not asking anyone to pay reparations.
Seems to be what you're suggesting. Do you believe that looting is morally wrong?
I believe that looting is illegal, and I refer to it as counterproductive. I think it should be prosecuted.
Do you believe it's morally wrong, though?
Of course.
Of course. Then why did you refer to it as counterproductive? It's a very different way to describe it.
It is both morally wrong and counterproductive, as well as being illegal.
You tweeted, it's hard to be mad about protests in reference to the BLM protests, not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression. You didn't condemn the looting. You said that it was counterproductive. NPR also promoted a book called In Defense of Looting. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I'm unfamiliar with that book, sir, and I don't believe that was at my time at NPR.
You tweeted that you read that book, but...
I don't believe that I did read that.
Wow. She's apparently tweeting about a lot of books she doesn't remember reading. I don't know. So this lady is in, like, management. She's in management. CEO. That's what they tell me. CEO of what? National Public Radio, National Public Television? Are you kidding me? Now, look it up real quick, guys, just to verify. How much federal money did National Public Radio get last year? I'm going to just put in here, National Public Radio gets $500 million, because I've reported that in government money. Because I've reported that several times. Yeah. In fact, look at that. Here's an article from today, March 26. PBS, NPR broadcast defend funding as GOP pushes to cut their support. And how much funding are they getting? Well, this article, like so many others, I'm pretty sure we're going to find they get $500 million. Let's just do the old 500 and see. Yep, there it is. Oh, I love that. I love that Control F. There you go. Both NPR and PBS get money from congressionally funded Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Congress allots money annually with more than $500 million going to CPB, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Wow. $500 million from the government. Do you guys know what we could do with $500 million a year? Logan? Oh, he's working on something else. All right, Caleb. Do you think that we could spend $500 million in a given year? It would be very hard for us to spend $500 million. That's what he just said. That's exactly right. I don't know what I would do with $500 million a year in government money. Do you, Dolly? Do you know what you would do? I mean, come on, people. And these are the people that are getting the money. You know, you look at these people, whether it's, I don't know, Reuters, whether it's Associated Press, whether it's National Public Radio, whether it's National Public Television. I'm glad you listen to the show and are so interested. If you listen to this, you're like, who watches this stuff? How do they stay on the air? I mean, because obviously there are so many millions upon millions of Americans that agree with this idea of white privilege. Well, there are, but are there enough to support a network? Apparently not. They have to get $500 million. Here's what I'd like to see. Cut off all federal money to National Public Radio, National Public Television, and let's see how long they last. We get zero in federal money. We don't want the federal money. We wouldn't take it if it was offered to us, because you know it comes with strings. But there you go. CEO. National Public Radio, National Public Television, testifying today before Congress. Isn't that something? I guess she said this. Our current editorial leadership believes that was a mistake, as I do. I wonder why you believe it's a mistake. Is it I'm sorry, we were wrong, or I'm sorry, we got caught with our progressive, woke, Marxist, cultural Marxist ideology, and we want to keep getting the government money? Do you think they'd be apologizing right now to any Republicans if Kamala Harris and her administration were in power? If the Democrats were in power of the House and full in control, do you think they'd be apologizing? No. We all know what this is, I believe. We now have to say what the Republicans want us to say so we can keep getting our money. They're not sorry. I don't think they're sorry for 1 minute. I got to play one more of these, by the way. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let's see what Marjorie Taylor Greene did with her. Just a second. Or whoever else is there with her. Here we go. All right, it's not playing. That's ridiculous. We're having some serious issues today with Mr. X. Elon might want to spend a little less time in Washington and more time working on X.
As mentioned earlier
today. You guys notice that? Here we go.
PBS was the outlet that featured the child predator drag queen on the education show for kids ages 3 to 8 years old. And to clarify the record, because our witness, Ms. Kerger, lied under oath and said it wasn't featured on PBS, this show was aired on PBS on April 1st, 2021, and we will take a look at this video right now. We're using a TV today because our audio system is having problems. Let's go ahead and watch this video.
Now, wait a minute. I want to give them an A+ for ingenuity. They brought in a TV, they're going to hold it and now hold a microphone up to the speaker. And I'm not mocking them because we have actually had to do this ourselves. So check this out. The United States Congress that has billions of dollars at their disposal has to resort to something we've had to do ourselves. Just go to the TV and hold up a microphone. I love it. Well, here we go.
So, get your singing voices ready. And we're going to start with our hips. The hips on the drag queen go swish, 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 swish. The shoulders on the drag queen go shimmy, 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 shimmy. Blah, 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 blah. The mouth on the drag queen goes blah, 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 all through the town. So, get your singing voices.
Wow.
The hips go swish, swish, swish. The shoulders go shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. That's repulsive. That's not what children ages 3 to 8 should ever be watching. A grown biological man posing as a woman. And by the way, Ms. Kerger, that was aired on April 1st, 2021. And then something happened. It wasn't an accident. And it wasn't just for a brief time that it was up. It was aired April 1st, and then somehow it expired May 24th. Later on, it was taken down. I wonder why. Wonder why that was taken down.
And again, good for Marjorie Taylor Greene on that one. Was that all? Was that all? Is there anything more to play? I think that really well says it all, does it not? I think that says it all. $500 million a year. That is so much money that my team admits from the control room, we could not spend that much money in a given year. And yet here we are just trying our best to bring in 40 grand a month to cover our hard cost. Well, again, take away their money and I'd like to see if they survive. Because I'm not sure there's a public appetite for this. Why do we pay taxes for it, our hard-earned dollars to go to that? Not to mention everything else we're finding out about. Something seriously has got to be done about our taxation. This is not why we get up every day, work hard, try to provide for our families, build our businesses, as many of you are doing, and then to take what could be great capital for expanding your business, growing your business, hiring new people, new equipment, and you got to send it to Washington so $500 million a year can go to this perversion that we just saw. Not to mention everything else that's come out about USA ID. Well, all I can say in closing is this. Doesn't that prove why we need this network, Worldview Tube? Because if you really want to get the news through the lens of a Christian worldview, you are not going to get it from ABC, CBS, NBC, Reuters, the AP, PBS, NPR. And so many of these outlets, they get massive government money. And they're pushing propaganda. They are mouthpieces, I believe, for propaganda of the cultural Marxists, the globalists, the deep state. And you need a network like this. We are not beholden to anyone. We're accountable to God and to you. We are a listener-supported network. We're not a government-supported network. We don't get some leftist, progressive, globalist foundation pumping money into us and then telling us what to cover, what to talk about, what not to talk about. I'm so committed to truth, I don't let an editor, I don't let a producer get in between this broadcast and you. I am the senior and only producer, and the only producer of Brandon House Live. I work with Leo Holman to put together the Worldview Report every night. But when it comes to this show every night right here, I pick the topics. I pick the guests. And we're not beholden to anyone but you and your support, but we certainly are not controlled by the government, the globalists, the progressives, the Marxists. Nope. We're an independent organization you can trust. And that's why, quite frankly, we are very shocked at our numbers and how many people watch. This network is growing. Now, we need more of you to become donors to our foundation to help us so we can keep pushing it all out for free versus putting it all behind a paywall. But the numbers of this network are rapidly growing. And now you know why, in part. Not that you didn't know already. But again, $500 million, more money than we could even spend if it was given to us. Whew. All right, roll the music. Let's call it a night. Remember, we are brought to you by you. Worldview worldviewfoundation.com. And don't forget about all of our sponsors as well over at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Organic coffee not sprayed. That's a good idea, to drink coffee that's not sprayed. There's all kinds of things there. Water purifiers that we use, the different health products, of course, the Bella Grates, which includes a sleep aid, which includes skin care, which includes the elixir. It's all there. So much for you. Find a few of these products, order them, get a subscription. They don't pay us unless you use their products. So these are the ways you can support us, because we're not getting $500 million from the government this year, not last year, not ever. All right? Thank you for watching. Till next time, I'm Brandon House. May God save America. Take care.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brandon House. You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brandon House.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. We're not changing courses now. We are who we are. We're committed to the truth that we are committed to. Worldview Tube is a broadcast network that I started in 2006.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brandon House.
And welcome, March 26, 2025. Let's continue part 2 from what we were talking about yesterday, and then we'll go back to some guests tomorrow.